It's so interesting because you, like you just explained, kind of going into college, it was kind of a big risk to go to Davis and try to walk on. And for those that don't know, you got drafted to go pro. So where was the shift? You know, whether it's mentality or whether it's like your game that evolves, but like when does that kind of start coming to the back of your head? Like, oh, well, I can make a career out of this. I can go pro.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like I think I realized later than some of the people who were around me. Like I give a lot of credit to Jason Hoteling is he's associate head coach, but he also works with the goalkeepers. And like I can remember like working the camps, like before my redshirt sophomore, before my redshirt junior, before my redshirt senior year, like working the ID camps, and Jay would be there and he'd be saying to parents like, "This is Wallace and he's got so many years left, but after that he's gonna be playing in the MLS." And at the time I was like, okay, come on, like you're kind of putting the sell job on for the parents or whatever. But like he, for one, really, really believed in me and like believed that I could do it. And it's something that I feel like super, super fortunate for, because I think obviously like you can't make anything happen unless you believe it yourself. But sometimes it takes somebody else believing in you for you to kind of realize like, okay, maybe I can do this, and then sort of in turn believe in yourself. So he was a big part of it for sure. But then, yeah, I mean, I knew that my goal was going into college was to keep playing for as long as I can. And then in college, I was like, well, okay, let's see if I can keep playing after college. So I was literally like, well, Davis is kind of an under the radar school. I'm kind of an under the radar guy. Like, how can I get my name out there? So I literally like would go on MLS websites and like, so they don't give coaches emails out on MLS websites for obvious reasons, right? Because you'd have like people like me bothering you all the time, like, hey, can I come train, whatever. Yeah, exactly. But what they do, and I guess I'm gonna kind of put the secret out for some people if they take advantage of it, but okay, it's not that big of a deal, is they put emails for like the ticket guy. So if the ticket guy's name is Matt Jones at whatever, portlandtimbers.com, and his name is Matt Jones and his email is mjones, then that's like how the emails are set up. So if the goalkeeper coach's name is John Smith, then I'm like, well, it's probably Jay Smith at portlandtimbers.com. So that's how I like got in touch with a lot of places. And then I had a family friend of a friend of a friend who worked for Minnesota United. That was the first place I went and trained in the summertime. And through like a chain of emails, like 10 people later, all of a sudden I'm in touch with the goalkeeper coach. And he's like, yeah, sure, come. So I went there, was able to stay with my grandparents and stuff like that. So yeah, I tried to sort of reach out to places where I had like people I could stay with and then go train. So I ended up going to like to Minnesota, to Houston, to North Carolina FC in the USL, to Portland. Portland
when you're going to train with them, that's over the summer when you're at school?
Yeah, so Minnesota and North Carolina, I did in the summertime. Minnesota, I went for 2 summers, and then Houston, I went right after the fall quarter, so winter break, and then Portland, I went during spring break. So yeah, I would send them like, here are the dates that I'm going to be not in school. Like, can I come train? And some people wouldn't respond, and some people were like, yeah, sure, come. And then I think like, I mean, you guys I'm sure understand this, but like soccer is such a small world that like everybody knows everybody, and it just. So the Houston Dynamo coach told me a great thing. His name is Paul Rogers, the goalkeeper coach there. And he said, like, there's a list of names of American goalkeepers. And he's like, all you got to do really is get yourself into that conversation, that list of names that people are talking about. Now, not all those lists are going to go pro, but if you're in the conversation, people know who you are, that it sort of instantly gives you some credibility, right? And for better or for worse, I think there's a lot of great players who don't continue on because people don't know who they are and they don't have somebody credible to vouch for them.
Yeah.
And what somebody views as credible or not credible is obviously subjective. So that was my kind of goal with that was A, like getting involved in professional environments and learn as much as I can about goalkeeping, but B, just by process of like being there, I didn't even necessarily have to do great, but just by being there, I kind of was able to get my name out there. And people were like, oh yeah, like we know Wallace, he came here, or, oh, I know Wallace, I know they went to Portland or whatever. And all of a sudden, like, I'm not just like some nobody. I'm like, they sort of know who I am.
Yeah. Just got to get your foot in the door.
Exactly, bro. Exactly.
What were like some of the main differences when you do go train with professional programs, like compared to somewhere like Davis?
Well, I mean, obviously like the level is obviously higher. I think the speed of the play, the speed of the game is definitely quicker. I think like the attention to detail is obviously, as you go up in level, the attention to detail rises up. Like, and that was helpful for me because I was kind of able to see like, okay, like if I'm building out and I play to my center back's back foot, that takes him a split second longer to get the ball in front of him. And now that's whatever, half a second turns into a second. And now we can't build out and we're getting pressed. We turn the ball over and now we're defending. So either like watching guys in terms of like what they did in those situations, or even like before and after practice. Like that was definitely the biggest takeaway is like, so I go to Minnesota and like either Bobby Shuttleworth or Vito Mannone, who played in the Premier League, played for Arsenal and stuff like that. I'm like, well, what's he doing before training? What's he doing afterwards? And let me see if I can pick and choose those things and try to incorporate that into my own routine. Because one thing I realized, like the higher level you go up playing wise, the smaller the slice of the pie is the time that you spend on the training field. Like you're spending more and more time before and after practice, like either recovering or getting yourself ready to train. But like pros, like these guys don't really train that much like during the season, right? Like the day before the game is super light. The day after the game is probably a day off. The day after the game is like regen for guys who played. And then maybe you have 1 or 2 sessions and then you're getting ready to play another game. So those kind of like managing your body, managing your load and stuff like that were big takeaways for me for sure.
Okay. So, that's during the summer when you're at school. When you start kind of realizing, okay, I'm going to go pro, do scouts come to the games? Do you just kind of get on the radar by going there to train in the summers? Like when does that MLS draft kind of come into the radar? What was that looking like during season?
Yeah, like again, I didn't really realize, like I think it was a sort of like the summer. So the summer before my senior year, I got invited back to Minnesota based on like having a good successful season my junior year. Like they saw me play somehow. And I don't know if they came and saw me play or they saw me on video or whatever. But they're like, we'd like you to come back. And then through the goalkeeper coach there, I got involved with the PDL team in Iowa. So they call it Des Moines Menace, which had been, I guess, a pretty successful PDL team. So I played there too. So that's sort of another place, right? Another sort of little credibility thing, another thing to put on the resume, even though like I went and didn't play a single game, like, which was disappointing for which is obviously disappointing. But again, I think it was a great experience in Des Moines because we were living in apartments and like literally it was like get up, train, and come back. So it was like a real professional sort of experience. And I was like, look, I loved it. I loved every minute of it. And I said to myself, like, if I love every minute of like living in these like not so great sort of rundown apartments in Des Moines and training on this sort of 110 degree like cruddy high school turf field and then not playing in games, and then I thought to myself like, okay, then I think I'm ready to like actually like go for it. You know what I mean? Because I think like it's one thing to say like, oh, I want to be a professional soccer player, but you have to like really, really want it, not just sort of say you want it. So yeah, that experience sort of like, okay, I think I have a shot at doing this. But then I got some really good advice so Ona Power was a guy who played at UC Davis for a while, for 2 years, and graduated a little bit before I did. But then he went on to play at Reno in the USL, and now is playing overseas. But one thing he said to me is like, you got to reach out to agents, because just like you get your name out there talking to coaches, it's the same thing kind of with agents. So I literally like Googled soccer agent USA and like went through websites, and obviously some places you can tell are like not real, and some places are like more credible just based on the guys who they represent. Yeah. So yeah, and then they all have contact forms, right? So like contact us. So I literally would say like, hi, my name is Wallace. I'm graduating this fall and hoping to pursue a professional career and looking for some potential representation. Here's my video, like get in touch with me if you're interested. So I sent like 15, 20 of those emails to different places. And then yeah, like right before my senior year, the season started, I got a couple places reached out and then was kind of in conversations with them over the phone and stuff like that, trying to figure out like what's going to be the best fit and stuff like that. And then through that experience, you're kind of able to learn a little bit more like it. So when the end of the season came and it was like time to like sign with somebody, I kind of had an idea of like who I was comfortable with and what sort of would make sense going forward.